This was the deadly race. Runners collapsed in the cold, rescue teams failed, and a quiet shepherd became the unexpected hero. But how did a simple mountain race turn into one of the worst disasters in running history? What happened next changed the rules of racing forever. His is the story of how the Gansu Ultramarathon became one of the deadliest endurance racing disasters in history. The race took place in China's Yellow River Stone Forest National Geological Area, a rugged landscape of rocky, mountainous terrain that was completely treeless and exposed. The course stretched 100 kilometers, or 62 miles, through this challenging environment, with participants expected to take at least 20 hours to complete the distance. Those who finished would receive a prize of 1,600 yuan, equivalent to about $250 in 2021. An ultramarathon is defined as any foot race longer than the typical marathon distance of 42.2 kilometers or 26 miles. These races often take place in challenging locations with mountainous regions, desert areas, or routes requiring runners to wade across rivers and streams. Some ultramarathons last for days, covering distances of hundreds of kilometers. The Gansu course, which had been held annually since 2018, was considered fairly challenging, but not among the most extreme races. The course featured several checkpoints along the way where competitors could rest and potentially pick up supplies. Checkpoint 6 offered a changing station where runners could receive first aid, get a change of clothes, and restock supplies. Other checkpoints provided little more than crates of bottled water. The only entry requirement was that participants had completed one similar ultramarathon before. Among the 172 registered participants were elite and amateur runners alike. Liang Jing, a 31-year-old ultramarathon champion, was known by other runners as General Liang due to his leadership in ultramarathon circles. He had emerged victorious from many tough challenges, including a 2018 ultramarathon across the Gobi Desert. Another serious contender was 34-year-old Huang Guanjun, who had won the marathon event at the 2019 Chinese National Paralympic Games. Following a medical accident as a child, he had limited hearing and was unable to speak, but was an extremely strong and accomplished long-distance runner. Most competitors arrived in the area a day or two before the race, staying in towns and villages close to the entrance of the geological area. As runners checked in ahead of the race, the weather was pleasant, warm and clear, with gentle sunshine and only the slightest suggestion of clouds. The conditions looked perfect for racing. Runners had packed backpacks with extra supplies and layers of supplementary clothing, which would be transported to Checkpoint 6 for pickup at the halfway point if needed. Given the pleasant weather, most runners chose to leave their cold weather gear inside their backpacks. The only mandatory equipment was a compact space blanket for emergencies and GPS devices provided by organizers, each featuring an emergency call button. By race day, the weather had dramatically worsened. The day dawned much colder than before, and as runners lined up wearing light sportswear such as shorts and t-shirts, many were visibly shivering. The temperature at the 9 a.m. start was around 7 degrees Celsius, or 44.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the discomfort, there was no cause for alarm among participants or organizers. Runners anticipated warming up as the race progressed and believed the weather might improve. Crucially, organizers had not briefed them on any expected extreme weather conditions. As runners ascended into the hills, passing checkpoints 1 and 2, the temperature dropped further. With wind chill factored in, they were soon running in near-freezing conditions. Rain began falling and was soon followed by slush and freezing rain. Fog descended and strong gusts of wind buffeted runners as they made their way along the exposed, hilly course. The section between checkpoints 2 and 3 was one of the steepest and most exposed parts of the course. By the time lead runners reached this area, the wind and rain were severe, obscuring visibility and making navigation extremely difficult. Many trail markers had blown away in the wind, and there were no staff or marshals stationed on this section to offer guidance. The runners were completely on their own. Faced with these harsh conditions and dropping temperatures, some runners turned back while others pushed forward. Some hoped to push through to reach a more sheltered part of the course, while others feared that turning back and attempting to descend would be too risky given the changed conditions. However, the further they ran, the worse the weather became. At 11:50 a.m., the first runner used their emergency GPS device to call for help, but received no response. Around the same time, other runners began using personal devices to request assistance, posting updates and photographs of themselves huddling on the mountainside in the race's WeChat group. However, in the most brutal section between checkpoints 2 and 3, there was very little mobile phone signal. This communication black spot was something organizers had not been aware of, and runners had not anticipated. Those most in need of help were stranded where they could not call for it. The situation became desperate. Runners resorted to the emergency blankets they had been instructed to carry, but these were whipped away or shredded by the force of the wind. Even when runners managed to hold on to them, the thin foil blankets provided little protection against the howling wind and freezing rain. Runners took shelter behind rocks or in caves, with some huddling together for warmth. Others, overwhelmed by hypothermia, collapsed and fell unconscious. Race organizers had hired a private company named Blue Sky Rescue to recover and provide first aid for runners experiencing difficulty on the course. However, they were equipped to rescue individual runners suffering illness or injury, not to assist dozens of people in simultaneous danger. The Blue Sky Rescue team hiked up along the course and managed to escort 18 runners back down to safety, but many more still needed help. Overwhelmed, they called for additional support from emergency services. While firefighters made their way to the remote location, a local shepherd named Zhu Keming stumbled across runners in distress. He was reluctantly out in the adverse weather to oversee his sheep's grazing when he encountered a group of strangers dressed only in shorts and t-shirts, some clearly suffering from hypothermia. He escorted 6 runners to the cave where he usually rested when working on the mountain, started a fire, and then headed back out to search for others. The next 3 runners he found were already dead. Zhu was forced to take shelter from the weather for several hours, but as soon as conditions improved enough, he hiked downhill until he had mobile phone signal and called a contact at nearby Changsheng village. The villagers were aware something was wrong in the hills above their home, but had only been told that some athletes required emergency supplies. Zhu's call revealed that people were in immediate danger, and within hours, around 50 villagers had gathered supplies and hiked up to checkpoint 3 to search for survivors. The villagers arrived on scene an hour before the emergency services. With superior knowledge of the area, they navigated effectively and found themselves assisting firefighters who, despite having better equipment, repeatedly got lost and struggled with the terrain. By the next day, the rescue operation was over, and the final death toll was known. 21 runners had died, and many more were hospitalized. Just 4 runners had made it through to checkpoint 4. The rest had either been stranded by weather, turned back voluntarily, or had not survived. The disaster claimed the lives of both professional and amateur runners. Both Liang Jing and Huang Guanjun, despite their extensive experience and peak physical fitness, lost their lives to hypothermia on the Gansu Ultramarathon course. In the aftermath, there was fierce criticism of the lack of emergency planning. Race organizers had not arranged for checkpoints in the most remote parts of the route to be staffed. They had not planned for contingencies like extreme weather and had not required runners to carry sufficient survival equipment to actually survive dramatic condition changes. The race was organized by the local government of the prefecture where it took place, with assistance from the Yellow River Stone Forest National Geological Area. They had relied on a sports marketing company to handle logistics, while focusing on promotion and using the event for economic development. 5 individuals who helped organize the race were charged with dereliction of duty or negligence, receiving prison sentences of up to 5 years each. Any sports without established national safety standards were banned until such standards could be agreed upon. In following years, safety standards for ultramarathons were established in China and worldwide. In many countries, it became mandatory for race organizers to plan for extreme weather events and ensure competitors carry basic survival equipment. With these new measures, marathons and ultramarathons continued gaining popularity in China. Dozens of ultramarathons now take place around the country, with each race's organization informed by the disaster that occurred during the 2021 Gansu Ultramarathon.
Biles, she's set to prove to herself and the rest of the world that she can perform at a maximum again.
Simone Biles just stole the spotlight, and it wasn't with a flip, a twist, or a gold medal. At the 2025 ESPYs, She said one sentence, just 9 words, that turned an entire theater into laughter and the internet into chaos. Was it a harmless joke or a bold statement in the middle of one of the most heated debates in sports? Let's find out the viral moment that's got everyone talking, from fans to political pundits, and why it might be the most talked about 10 seconds of her entire career. The moment came when Biles won the Best Championship Performance Award for her 2024 Olympics all-around gold medal. She was competing in a category dominated by male athletes: Golden State Warriors sharpshooter Stephen Curry, Los Angeles Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman, and golfer Rory McIlroy. When her name was called, Biles rose from the front row where she sat with her husband, NFL player Jonathan Owens of the Chicago Bears, who kissed her as she headed to the stage. Standing at the podium, Biles received the trophy from LSU college basketball player Flau'jae Johnson and rapper Busta Rhymes. Then came the line that would ignite social media. That was very unexpected, especially in a category of all men, so thank you guys so much. The Dolby Theater crowd erupted in laughter, but online, the reaction would be far more divided. To understand why this comment exploded across social media platforms, we need to examine the recent controversy surrounding Biles. Weeks before the ESPYs, she had engaged in what media outlets described as a high-profile, gender-based feud with Riley Gaines, the former collegiate swimmer and current Outkick contributor. The dispute centered around the heated debate over transgender athletes in sports, a topic that has become increasingly polarizing in recent years. Riley Gaines has become a prominent voice in opposing the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports competitions. Her platform as an Outkick contributor has amplified her viewpoints on this issue. The specific details of their social media sparring involved the broader conversation about gender categories in athletics, making Biles' comment about being in a category of all men particularly loaded. The fan reactions revealed a stark divide in public opinion. Team Curry supporters expressed outrage at the award decision. One fan wrote, "Simone Biles over Steph Curry's performance? I hate you guys." Another escalated the criticism. How does Simone Biles get Best Champ performance over Steph hitting 5 look-away threes in the gold medal game? Curry's exceptional performance during the 2024 Paris Olympics. The 37-year-old basketball star had delivered a historic performance in the gold medal game, hitting 8 three-pointers in the Olympic final. Fans argued that his 5 look-away threes represented one of the most dominant individual performances in Olympic basketball history. However, Team Biles supporters pushed back against the criticism. One defender wrote, "Simone Biles still triggering weak, fragile ego Magamin after all these years." This response highlighted how the controversy had quickly evolved beyond sports performance into political territory, with supporters framing the criticism as rooted in gender bias rather than athletic merit. More balanced perspectives emerged from fans who acknowledged both athletes' extraordinary achievements. One tweet read, "This is why I don't watch the ESPYs. All credit to Simone Biles, but how can Steph hit 8 threes in an Olympic final and not win the award?" These reactions focused on the difficulty of comparing performances across different sports rather than attacking either athlete personally. Despite the online controversy, Biles maintained her composure throughout her acceptance speech. Before addressing her victory, she opened with a tribute to recent tragedy. "Before I get into it, I first want to offer my sincere condolences to all those impacted by the devastating flash flooding on July 4th in Central Texas. Words can't replace the pain, but our hearts are with you in this tragic time." The Texas floods had left an estimated 132 people dead and another 160 missing earlier that month. As a Houston native, Biles felt compelled to acknowledge the victims before celebrating her achievement. This gesture demonstrated her awareness of issues beyond sports and her connection to her home state. Biles then delivered a gracious acceptance speech. "I'm honored to receive this award. The recognition means more than you guys know. I would like to thank the people who have stood with me on this journey, my teammates, my competitors, my coaches, family, and fans who have lifted me up every step of the way. I wouldn't be standing here without all of you." She emphasized the collaborative nature of her success, stating she would proudly share this award with my team of supporters. Biles continued, "Having a strong support system that understands your dreams, who are willing to show up for you, not just when you're winning, but when you're struggling too, is really important. My sincere gratitude, appreciation, and love to all of you who have stood with me on this magical journey. All the highs, lows, twists, and turns along the way. Her response to the online criticism reflected what many described as unbothered energy. The day after the ceremony, on July 17th, Biles posted an Instagram carousel captioned, "Getting ready for the ESPYs." The 5 photos featured her glam squad preparation and moments with her husband. Her followers flooded the comment section with fire and smiling face with heart-shaped eyes emojis, showing continued support despite the controversy. The 2025 ESPYs, hosted by comedian Shane Gillis, saw Biles take home not 1, but 2 awards. In addition to Best Championship Performance, she won Best Athlete, Women's Sports, defeating Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone in track and field, Gabby Thomas in track and field, and Aja Wilson from the WNBA. These victories brought Biles' career ESPY total to 7 awards, according to People magazine. Despite losing the Best Championship Performance category, Curry maintains the higher career total with 8 ESPYs on his mantle. The 2-time NBA Most Valuable Player has won Best NBA Player on 3 occasions: 2015, 2021, and 2022. This year, 2025 NBA Most Valuable Player and 2025 NBA Finals MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander claimed the Best NBA Player award. The controversy highlighted ongoing debates about gender categories in sports awards. Mixed gender categories like Best Championship Performance create situations where female and male athletes compete directly for recognition. This structure differs from separated categories that acknowledge achievements within specific gender divisions. The timing of Biles' comment created what many described as a perfect storm for viral content. The recent Riley Gaines controversy had primed audiences to interpret her words through a political lens. Her competition against beloved male athletes, particularly the popular Curry, intensified scrutiny of the award decision. The loaded nature of her all-men comment in the current political climate around gender in sports provided fuel for both supporters and critics. Social media amplification turned a brief award show moment into a trending topic. Quote, tweets and reaction videos spread across platforms, with users adding political interpretations from multiple perspectives. The incident demonstrated how a single joke or comment can divide opinion and generate sustained discussion in the digital age. Simone Biles continues to dominate conversations both in sports performance and cultural commentary. Her 11 Olympic medals and status as one of the greatest gymnasts of all time ensure her platform extends far beyond athletics. The intersection of sports, politics, and social media means that athletes like Biles operate in an environment where every public statement faces intense scrutiny and interpretation. The ESPY Awards moment represents more than a single controversial comment. It reflects broader tensions about gender in sports, the power of social media to amplify and politicize moments, and the challenges facing athletes who compete in an increasingly polarized cultural landscape. Whether intentional or innocent, Biles' observation about competing in a category of all men has ensured this moment will be remembered long after the awards ceremony itself.
Oh, Divine. Oh, 61!
At just 15 years old, Divine Heime has taken the sprinting world by storm. The young British sprinter shocked everyone at the BFTTA Indoor Series in London when he shattered the 20-year-old 60-meter world record for his age group, running an unbelievable 6.71 seconds. What makes this even more impressive? He broke the previous record twice in one day, also clocking a 6.72 in another round. To put that into perspective, this record had stood since 2003, set by Jamie Samuels at 6.74 seconds. Divine didn't just beat it, he smashed it. Nicknamed Lightning for his explosive speed, Divine's performances mark the emergence of a rare talent. He is now 4th on the UK all-time under-18 rankings for the 60-meter dash,